Hey guys, what's up, it's iFlynn here, and welcome back to another episode of Progressing in Warframe, where we talk about how to improve the game, make it better, and make more people play it for a lot longer. So last episode we were talking about the junctions and how a lot of the requirements are actually pretty useless in terms of, things that the player actually needs to do within the game. Like, let's say, for example, creating a Spectre. When out of, any time is a Spectre useful to you unless you're using something like Clem to make a meme in your squad? There's no reason to actually use a Spectre outside of absolute memeage or just doing it for the bank, things like that there. They're in the game and they're pretty useless. Other things being like, scanning the Cephalon fragments and things like that there in Mars. You don't have to do that. That's by no means, it shouldn't really be a gameplay requirement. I get that it expands on the lore a little bit, but it's just something that stops the player's enjoyment from progressing through the game. Because whenever I think Warframe, I'm thinking of a new player who's bored of whatever the hell it is that they're doing. Like, let's say playing Call of Duty. In my case, I was bored of playing Call of Duty. I'm able to jump into Warframe, have a good time, play against enemies that were a way higher level than me, get my ass handed to me, and then progress to beat those enemies. Whereas in now, it's come in Warframe and do all these stupid requirements that doesn't really matter to you. Whenever realistically you're coming in Warframe to either just have a good time playing solo missions or whatever, or come on to catch up with your friends who might be, let's say a Sedna, and the junctions just act like, kind of like a cock block, right? They're stopping you from getting where you want to be, and they're just really annoying. I can understand the junctions though, I can get it. It's DE's way of trying to force the player to do things, but they did it in the wrong way, at least in my opinion. I don't think that the player should be required, 100% has to do the thing, but at least give them the option. If you give them the option to play a tutorial or something, that's pretty cool. So what I suggest is making every single requirement on the junction a tutorial, right? So you can hover over this here, select it, and then it pops out. And then you're able to select play tutorial or skip, because you're either seeking that knowledge or you already know that knowledge in the game. So there's no reason to really, go and do these things. Let's say, for example, defeat 150 Frontier Grenier enemies on Earth just because, there's no reason to actually do that there other than DE wanting you to do this here so you can progress on through the game, if you get what I'm saying here. So yeah, that's really the junctions and what I think of them. So the next stage in that process now is recommending how to insert a tutorial into the junction. The junction in itself, it's its own sort of tile set. If we jump on in, you can come in here and you could fight off a single Spectre. Maybe put a combat tutorial in here or something, or a movement tutorial like I mentioned for the prologue. And you can do it in the prologue, you can do it here. It's just finding a useful thing to do within the junction, right? Because right now, they serve literally no purpose other than to come in here and one-shot whatever frame it is. You just one-tap that guy. Rest in peace, Frost. He's gone. Gone but not forgotten. And even at that, he's super buggy. He's kind of just... What's he even doing right now, So, that's my thoughts and opinions in the junctions. And they do give you Master Rank XP. So, I mean, mastery, mastery, playing tutorials, you master the game. You master weapons. You master the mechanics of the game. Think about it. Tutorials. DE. Tutorials, yeah, and then it connects you to whatever the next planet is if you come down here and you crouch. But they could expand upon this. They could make these junctions a little bit bigger, have a little tutorial section on all of them or something like that there. It's like a ship, right? So there could be different floors to it or something. You can have an elevator over here, something like that there, and then just make this a really cool tutorial level that the player has to reach every single time. Teach them about things like corrupted mods or your elemental mods, different things like that there in the junctions if you don't want to put it in the prologue, or instead of hiding it away in the codex, make it an actual gameplay element that the player can play through with ease, and that way they learn something and they also enjoy themselves. So there's no reason not to have that in, compared to the current tutorial system which we have now, which is the codex or the random tips that appear whenever you're modding. It's just pretty dumb, at least in my opinion. So if we go over to the codex, once I exit out my little gift thing, because these are for Sunday, so we head over here, we can see that we do have a lot of tutorials, right? Look, you have the content in the game that you can, teach the players about. Let's say advanced movement, you can replay the tutorial. Look at this, there's a tutorial here, but it's all hidden away. The player isn't going to find that. The player isn't going to go and actively seek out the parkour tutorial. No one's going to do that, because that's just, They don't want to do this. They don't want to go and look for it. They want that option to be thrown in their face, especially if you're a newer player. You don't know that this thing exists unless someone goes and tells you, which breaks your enjoyment, or I want to say immersion, off the game, because you have to go to an outside source and find it that way, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, I'm just going to complete this tutorial right here with like complete ease because, you know, veteran player and everything, I should be able to do this like no problem. But yeah, that's a tutorial in the game, and it's not like DE can't do this because they've clearly have made a tutorial like right in front of our face. So everyone who's saying that DE are like incapable of making tutorials or something, here's one right here, and I just flew through it with ease. And then that could be your master rank test. You see that? See how good that flows? You see, it's like so insane. It's in the game, but you have to throw it in the player's face. If you don't throw that in the player's face, they're not gonna know. Like whenever you want to do a mastery rank up, you fill up this bar, it shows up here, you click the big shiny button, next thing you know, you're doing a mastery rank test. Mastery rank test should be tutorials as well. Why not? You know? I know I'm like talking tutorial, but it's making the player understand this game. And these are all resources which you could use to make the player understand the game. Instead of just making a bullshit requirement like, you know, kill 150 butchers or collect these cephalon fragments or kill whatever, you know, it makes more sense because you're teaching the players how to play the game. And then that way, whenever everyone hits the war within, they're all at the same point. They all have the exact same understanding of the game once they hit Sedna or the war within or whatever the case may be. Makes total sense. And in that way, you can develop for endgame. Once you develop for endgame, you're appealing to both your strong audience, your veteran audience, and your beginner audience, because you're putting more content in the game for the beginners and you're putting more content into the game for the veterans, because you're making that endgame in quotation marks or story or whatever the case may be. Just adding more content in the game is awesome, at least in my opinion. So yeah, there's not a lot more that I can really say about junctions other than you really have to either make these a tutorial or turn around these requirements to make it seem more tutorial-ish. Like, for example, on Saturn here, make them go in and get a corrupted mod. You know, there's no reason to make them, or not to make them, go get a corrupted mod on the Uranus junction right here. Because once they get to this point, this is when the player's going to start to struggle. They're not going to know what to do. They're not going to know how to make their weapons stronger, because these two planets right here, this is a big jump. This is a huge jump right here in terms for a beginning player, because these are where elements really start to kick in. Elements are really needed. Upgraded mods are really needed right here. If you go in here, let's say with the bolter, let's say the player doesn't have, he has no idea how to mod his bolter, right? But he's got like his mods to his Warframe. Let's go in with an unmodded bolter. Let's see if I have one. There we go, a bolter max level, and we threw on. Let's say, okay, well, obviously they'll have something on like blast damage. Let's say, for example, we're not talking about you know, a player that does a lot. Let's you see, it's hard to do because I don't have any like unranked mods. So yeah, I could obviously go do that. But let's say they just go in with the dual stat mods and they haven't ranked them up yet, and they're going in with like, let's say, Malignant Force and Ferment rounds. They make gas damage. One of their YouTubers said the gas damage was pretty good at the time. They watched a video that was made in 2014, and now they're playing the game in 2017, and they think gas damage is still really good. And then we threw on, let's say, Suration. Obviously, this is going to kill them a lot faster, but they throw on Suration. They throw on Vital Sense because crit damage. They don't read the stats or anything, but they see that crit multiplier 3 times 3. That's pretty good. They don't understand it. They throw in Speed Trigger, which isn't a bad mod by any means. Speed Trigger is pretty good in the Bolter. And then let's say BNF Grenier, because why not? You know, they're still going to do a decent amount of damage, but they're not going to, you know, kill things, and they will get killed. You know what I'm saying? So let's jump into a mission on Uranus. Let's do the first one, Exterminate. We jump on in here, and we're probably not going to deal as much damage as we would. You know, I did deliberately put on the wrong element there, but this is a player that doesn't understand. They think gas damage is still good, and they're just going off the words of like a random YouTube video that they saw. You know, of course you're still killing these guys pretty quickly, but that's because we have a max rank Suration on here. A player who's playing at this point will not have a max rank Suration at this point in the game, and it will take them a lot longer. Also, they probably won't even have a maxed out speed trigger either, so they won't be shooting this fast and have that high a DPS either. So, you know, like I said, still killing them pretty fast, and obviously there is other means to killing bad guys, but like, you know, you can see how long it takes the player to sort of kill these guys. And let's say, you know, I'm playing as Loki right here. Watch how fast it takes for me to die once this invisibility wears off, which, let's see if I just do this. Doesn't take me out of it. So we have to wait the 14 seconds, but, you know, the player's going to get shot down pretty fast if you're using a Warframe like Excalibur or Vault or maybe even Ember at this stage of the game. They can get Valkyrie, they can get Rhino, and they can get Frost, which are more tankier, but, you know, they can see my thing. So, you know, you're going to die pretty quickly here, you know. Of course, there's a lot of enemies, and Lucky Prime has a little bit more armor, but they still die pretty quick. They're not going to have the Sentinel to help them out or make them go invisible like that there. Everything's just going wrong today, like so. So they'll take a decent amount of damage right here. Especially whenever you come to something like a heavy gunner, right? You just die like almost instantly, as well as a bombard or the rulers or the kitty cats that the other guys spawn with the Ignises and stuff. Players will get bursted down super quickly at this point in the game, and then it's kind of on just because they don't understand it. You know, they get stuck. They don't understand how to mod their weapons. They don't understand. Or if you explain to them how to do that there, this mission becomes a breeze. Let's say they just stick with a Boltor and you understand how to, they understand how to get their mods. And we assume that they already have their heavy caliber and things like that there. Even if we go in, well, maybe not with an unranked, but like a level 5 stretch in heavy caliber and then the correct elements will make a hell of a bigger difference. So let's say if we mod this properly, we go on our Boltor, we throw on, I mean, Bane of Guinea is still okay for like that type of player, but you throw on the correct things here. So let's see, we have a, what's the status in this? We have a 10% status chance, which is higher than the crit. So what I would do is I'd just build the raw damage. So I'd be throwing on my heavy caliber. If we can go ahead and type that in, and that's spell heavy caliber, right? No, it's just in the wrong polarity. There we go. If we type in heavy caliber, take a one from the top right there. Then we throw on the correct elements, and we throw on, it's our infected clip and our Stormbringer, like so. And then we can have space for another fire rate mod. So what's it called? Speed trigger. We throw that there on, and then this would be their builds, and then they run into the exact same mission. Wait until you guys see the difference, just because they understand how the game works. Just if you explain to them, okay, this element is good here, this mod is really good, you can throw that there on. Hell of a difference, trust me. Let's just take a look. And you show that to the player somehow, this mission turns into a fucking breeze. Look at that. They die so much quicker if I could hit my shots. So much quicker. Of course, you don't have that status stripping their, or applying the gas proc or anything like that there, or the corrosive proc, but they still die a lot quicker just by shooting at them, you know? And you're just using the regular Boltor, right? It's super good. Even though you have, like, that minus accuracy, that doesn't matter too much, because you're still killing them whenever you do eventually hit them. Not to mention, you'll understand how to mod on your secondary, right? So there's no reason not to do that there. The difference is phenomenal. And that really shouldn't be like a limiting factor in the game, the player's understanding, because the game should explain most things, not everything, but most things to the player. Just say, okay, armored targets are weak against corrosive, and then the player finds out how to make corrosive, or you show them how to make corrosive in a tutorial, you show them about elemental combos in a tutorial, and it changes the game phenomenally. Like, this is so easy, you know? The difference is insane. This is literally as easy as an Earth mission. It's just there's more enemies, and you have to use your abilities a little bit, because you might run out of energy or something because of a shield or something like that there, where there's more traps. You know, that's the only difference that there is whenever it comes to Warframe. You just have to have the right mods on, and then it just becomes as easy as if you first started out in the game. So that's why I say that this should be explained, because the player should have a feeling of progression, right? And if you don't explain how to progress, the player's never going to have that feeling of progression, apart from the mods that they throw onto their Warframe, being a lot more tankier, taking a lot more shots. But if you don't explain how to like deal more damage with your weapons, the player's always just going to think, yo, I need to get a better weapon. I need to get a better weapon. Flynn, what's the best weapon? Why is that weapon doing no damage? Why do you recommend the summit? It only does 10 damage. How do I mod it? You know, they keep on asking questions like that there, and that should be common knowledge. At least in my opinion. Does anyone else agree with that? Like, should every player know how to, you know, do the basics of modding? Should DE explain that? Like, use a junction, use a prologue, different things like that there, because it does get slightly harder at this point, you know? You only do have a Boltor, but you drop those heavy gunners super quick, and that's like the biggest problem here. Heavy gunners and the bombards, you're dropping these guys super fast. So, yeah, I think I ranted enough about this now. So let's go ahead and go back into the ship. I know instead of recommending the change, I'm kind of just ranting just a little bit, but that's sort of just to emphasize the point that, like, you know, this needs to be a thing that's implemented. You need to explain to the player how important elements are. You need to explain how to mod. You need to explain that different enemies are weaker to different damage types, and you have so many different resources at your disposal to do so. Junctions, prologue, I mean, the codex works too, but like I said, you have to throw it in the player's face somehow. And you have to add in actual tutorials for this damage 2.0. Where's the damage 2.0? Here we go. Damage 2.0. No tutorial done here. It's just reading. This is a big problem that Destiny had. The story was turned into something that the player had to read online. This is like as bad, almost as bad as reading something online. Going to a secondary source and reading something online. This isn't gameplay. This is just reading something in a game, you know? That's my argument to that. You have to explain the damage in the game. You have to do it in some way, shape, or form. And don't come at me with the excuse that, you know, these little tips in the arsenal, these here things, like what? Who the hell reads those? You have this, all this shiny stuff thrown in your face. I'm not going to see that. In fact, I barely even recognize that that thing's there. If you took this here out and just made that a blank space, I probably wouldn't even notice. Explain what the mods do under the mod, and it's not like you can't do that, because take a look at this. Explains what the mod does. Vitality increases health by a percentage value. Constitution increases duration by a percentage value. You know? Hellfire deals extra damage. Where's it at? Where's Hellfire? Oh, right, I'm in the wrong modding section. Derp. Let's go. Hellfire increases damage versus light infested units. Why not have that on there? So simple. It makes the game so easier to play for the newer player. It's bringing the newer player up to that end game point. Once you get the newer player up to that end game point, DE can start developing content for the end game player, because every single player will have the basically the potential to get to that point without having to ask too many questions or go into too many outside sources, you know, which keeps the pacing of the gameplay at the same level for everybody. That's a big problem that I think this game has. So yeah, I'm sorry this video was kind of a ranty one, but like I said, this is just a point that needs to be emphasized a lot, and we'll probably move on to something more on like how to improve, maybe something after junctions or just general gameplay or something. So yeah, thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, hit that like button below. If you want to see more Warframe content from me, hit subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.